Data backup does not need to be difficult just because you're using software. Yeah, you might spend a little bit more money, but how much is that data worth to you? That is always the question. And like I said, we're going to do a lot of videos this year containing data backup and how to do it, what to use, etc., etc. Now, for today, what I want to talk to you about is the Acronis True Image or Acronis Cyber Protect Home Office, and how easy it is to get and how cheap it is to get versus losing all of your data. So I'm going to show you straightforward right away how to get this done, so stay right there. So before we get over to the computer, you'll notice in my, a video or two ago, depending on when this is posted, I have like a drive selection, and it's basically demonstrating what you can pick, what's out there, what is offered. And I would highly recommend going and checking that out if you're unsure about what to pick. But moving forward from there, when we take a look at this Acronis, this is an all-in-one package. So you get not only data backup, and it does it automatically, you can do it manually or automatically, but you also get cyber protection. So you get your malware and antivirus software, that's all one. So it's an all-one unit, built all in one package, so you don't have to have two separate pieces of software if you wish to do this. Now you can turn the protection side off if you want and use a different one, but I'm starting to recommend it because they've been around for a while now, and Acronis has been around forever, but the cyber protection side of it's been around for a few years now, so I highly recommend it now. So anyway, let's get over to the computer and get this downloaded so I can show you exactly how to do this. All right, go to your browser of choice and let's just type in Acronis, and you can see actually it's part of the top. I haven't even done a search on this, but it kind of just knows. And we have Acronis Cyber Protection Home Office. It does look like I clicked on it, but I don't remember doing that. Anyway, we are going to, it's formerly True Image, formerly known as True Image. You can see right there in parentheses. So we're going to go ahead and click on that. Now in here, you got backup, disk cloning, cyber protection, privacy tools, enable security for home users. So this is from $49.99 per year, not per month, per year. So that's very important. It's very good. That is dirt cheap. $50 per, it's asking you if you want to 10% coupon there. You can fill that out because you're supposed to be able to try this for free for 30 days. So let's go to try it now. You can also go to buy it. I highly recommend just buying it, but go ahead and download the trial version. Try it for free, and it works on Mac OS too if you have a Mac version. You can buy the full version, obviously. I think you do get the full version for the 30 days, but after that, you basically get nothing. I think you can restore something for free, if I remember correctly, but you can't back up anything anymore if you don't have the license key, that is. So the free version, by the way, enjoy 1 terabyte of Acronis Cloud, create a mirror image of your system, scan your system for malware, back up individual files and folders, built-in all-in-one recovery drive, and authenticate data using blockchain tech. So anyway, we are going to download this. We'll just hit the download button right there. You can see in the upper right hand corner, we can see the progress that it is downloading. And we just got to wait a few seconds for this. Okay, right there, 1 gigabyte of a download. So we're going to minimize this. We're going to open up our File Explorer. This is Windows 11, by the way. It works practically the same way on Windows 10. Just open up your File Explorer. That's usually that manila envelope down at the bottom. We are going over here on the left-hand side. We want to look for downloads. And right here we can see Acronis Cyber Protection Home Office. And this is what we're going to double click on. It's an executable file. And we got to go through the process of installing this. So we can see, we just click yes. It's unpacking all the installer files, and it's going to be placing them on your C drive. You can do custom installation, but that's if you have a specific drive or specific area you really want to put this on. Otherwise, just click install. We can go ahead and close the background just so it's a little less confusing for anybody. Once you have launched that, you can go ahead and close anything you want. We can see up at the top here, it has now added this desk icon. So that's about halfway through the installation right now. All right, so it automatically opened up this browser, and basically it's a quick guide. In other words, you can go through it and get familiarized with it, but we're not going to do it that way. You're welcome to do that. Go ahead and take your time. There may be stuff that I miss, but that's just not the way I'm going to show you right now. I just want to show you the basics on how to get this set up, and that's it. So we're going to exit out of that and this, and we're going to go ahead, and you can see that this says now start application, and we can go ahead and start the application up. This is what it's going to look when you launch it primarily through your desktop, except for the license agreement and all that. You're not going to keep getting this every time you launch the application. So you have to accept. The other one, I do not like to participate usually in anything because it just sends your data over to that company for them to do whatever they want with. It's usually just to make the product better, see what you're clicking on and how often are you doing something. I'm not that type of person that likes to voluntarily give out information if I have a choice. So this is where you insert your serial number, your product ID, for activation. So when you get that later on, assuming that you like the product and you want to continue with it and you want to continue making backups and being able to recover your drive if all of your files disappear in a blink of an eye. It's like you come in and you flick on that light switch in your bedroom or in the kitchen or wherever you are, and it just blew. It didn't even come on, or maybe it came on and blew right away. Now you got to change the light bulb. Well, it's the same with a hard drive or a solid state drive. One day it may just not work. It may just not work. So then what do? Do you have a solution to restore what was on that? Because you may not be able to get it back. Do not have a serial number, sign in, or start trial. So we want to come right over here. We're just going to start the trial. Now, of course, it wants us to put in the first name, create an Acronis account, and I already have that. So technically I already have it. So we're going to see what I can do here to either get around this, or I may have to put something in temporarily just to get past this, but fill out that information and I'll be right back. All right, so we got past that point. Sorry, it took me a little longer on my side. On your end, it was blink of the eye. But I got it all set now. I just put in something temporary so we can get past that. This is a full image backup. This is just, we're just gonna skip this. Yeah, we're gonna skip it. So this is what it's gonna look like every single time you open up this application. Nothing's gonna look any different in here except for when you add some stuff, but this is what it's gonna look like. So over here at the top, what I want to talk to you about is backup right now. I don't care about the protection right now or anything like that, but I will show you the protection just so you can turn it on or off. So you click on protection over there in the top left-hand corner, and we can see that it is active right now, and we can detect viruses, and it's downloading protection updates. So we really don't care about that. So go over to settings, and we can, I'm just trying to find it. Real-time protection is right up there at the top. Off. Simple as that. Web filtering, you can leave that on or off. I just turn it all off if I'm using a separate piece of software. Just a little note. So now we can go back up to the backup protection. Now, of course, it says She-Hulk up there because it pulled the name of this computer. That's the name of this computer. It's what I named it. So we have She-Hulk. You can go ahead and keep it that way. That's going to be your first backup, and it's kind of, once you click out of it, this is going to be your first backup. So you can rename it. So if you wanted to rename it and you had multiple drives in your system, so if you only have one drive, you don't really have to rename it if you don't want. But if you have multiple drives in your system, you're going to want to know what drive is what and what it contains and what are you backing up. So let's just say that this machine has, well, this machine actually I think has 3 drives. So let's kind of demonstrate that a little bit here. And we're just going to go with, because I have 3 drives, so I know the C drive is containing our Windows. Oh, I want to back up my Windows. So we're going to go C drive, and a lot of times, this is just what I like to do. You can label it anything you want, but a lot of times I will just put C drive, and either I'll put, you know, that's my Windows, but since I'm kind of techie, I already know that it's the Windows drive, so I wouldn't put Windows. I would just put actually like the date. So you could put the date in there if you want. And for instance, like today's date for me is 7. Now it doesn't like slashes or anything like that. I can push on the slash all day long and it just doesn't work. So I could put a dash, or I could put an underscore. So a lot of times I just do the underscore, or you could put, you don't even have to put anything. But we can do underscore 2, that's the 8th, underscore, and the year is 24. So, and also, I sometimes like to put C drive. Just a little more descriptive, just in the wording. So, and it kind of separates the C from the date. So we got C drive. So over here where it says change source, now you can see it relabeled it as C drive, and that's the date that I'm starting my backup. So I know when it was initially done. It has 331 gigabytes of data selected. Now, it's selecting everything in the computer right now. So if we click on it, you can see we can do disk and partitions, the entire PC. Entire PC means it's looking at every single drive that's in your PC to back up. So you can do disk and partitions, or just folders and files. And those are the primary ones. One of the newer ones it has down here now is your mobile backup, which is awesome, by the way. Or you can back up to your mobile, right? I think you can back up to your mobile. This is the source, so this is where you're taking it from. So if you had your cell phone plugged into your computer, normally it's with Android stuff, but you can do that. You can also go to the cloud. If you're backing up to a cloud, I don't recommend doing videos. Pictures are okay, but it does take a long time depending on how many pictures you have, but it's really meant for files. Otherwise, you're going to be there a really long time. So, disk and partitions is usually what I pick because I do my drives individually. I usually don't back all of them up like the entire PC onto one. There is an exception that I do on my main PC though. So we click on the disk and partitions. Now you can see that it has, it actually only has that one selected because it probably doesn't see any kind of real, well, there is data on there. So you could do the entire PC where you select them all. But since we're only doing the C drive, we're going to deselect those and we want only the C drive. And it tells you right there, it's the Western Digital, and it's a 500 gigabyte drive. You can see the 500 there. So I know that's my C drive because it's labeled C anyway in here. So now what we're going to do is just go down here to OK. That's great. That's what we want. Now, where do you want it going? You can see also this little arrow right here with the dots and the arrow. So you're going from this drive. Now, where do we want to back it up? Well, you got to have somewhere to back it up. So if you only have one drive in your system, you have to have an external drive, or you have to buy another drive to put in your computer. So I recommend getting an external drive. That's where you want to start. So we can demonstrate that, but first I'm going to demonstrate just backing it up to another drive that's in my PC. So there's 3 of them in here. So I can take my C drive and back it up to my D, or back it up to the E drive. So where do we want to back it up? Now, external drive, we don't have an external drive hooked up, and we're not putting it on the cloud because that would take too long. So browse data, or browse, not browse data, but when we want to browse, go to this PC because that's where your drives are going to be located. And we can see we have 3 selections. Now, we're not going to back up to the C. So unless you create a partition within the C and then you make a backup on that, it's still bad because you would have to, if that drive fails, then you lose your backup too, in a sense. So you're not going to back up to your C. So we can either put it on D or E. So if I go ahead and we select D, and then we just go down here. Now you can make a comment too, but anyway, we go here and right down here where it has this little bubble, you can actually put in your own comment in there if you wish. So what we're doing is we're going from our C drive over to the D drive. We're copying everything as an image and putting it on the D drive. Now, if your C drive fails completely, you have to get a new drive, install it, then you would have to, in here, you would have to also make a recovery, you could make a recovery disk if you still had a DVD/CD player, but you need to make a recovery thumb drive so it allows you to use Acronis outside of Windows. So that's because you lost Windows, right? If you lost your C drive, you lost Windows. So anyway, that's kind of another topic of making a rescue disk. Don't worry, as long as you're making your backups, there's a good chance you can find somebody and hire somebody to actually restore your backup so all your data is not lost. So that's the primary reason for this video right now. We can see there's an options button down here. Click on options. Now here's where you can schedule your backups. So if it's in your PC, you can schedule backups so you don't even have to worry about it. You can do it daily. You can do it multiple times a day. You can do it weekly, multiple days during the week, and so on and so forth. As you can see, all you can do is just click on, every hour. Do you want it every 8 hours, 2 hours? If we drop down, you can go to once a day at a certain time. You go to twice a day. We can go to weekly, and you can select every day of the week. But you might as well do daily if you're going to do that. Just because it's more clicks with this. But you could do it, only on these 3 days or only 1 day or whatever you want to do. You can do it monthly upon an event, non-stop, which should be more for the cloud or something like that if you're doing a non-stop. I would think. But there's probably some other scenarios where you might want to do that. So you could do not schedule. So typically I set that for do not schedule when I'm using external hard drives, because if you set a schedule for an external hard drive and you're not there to plug it in, it's going to give you a warning that it couldn't back it up because it wasn't plugged in. So anyway, that's what I do for external hard drives. We can just set this up for weekly for right now, every Friday. It doesn't matter the time. That just so happens to be the time that I'm setting this up, which is just a little after noon. And we can go to backup scheme. Now, these can get a little complicated. I'm not going to go too in depth in this, but you have incremental scheme, which I use quite a bit, or you have single version scheme, which is another good one. Single version scheme is actually is pretty good. So basically, single version is you make a backup and it's the entire thing. Then if you do it again, it's going to do another entire backup of the entire drive. So if you do it incrementally, so if we go back to the incremental, you can see down here you have backup method, full, incremental, differential. So the incremental is what I like to use a lot. Sometimes I keep it on the default, or I might, change it up a little bit. But anyway, incremental will do your first initial one will be the entire backup. So that's that 331 gigabytes or whatever it was. It'll do that initially, which will take the longest. But then next week, when you do your next backup, and when it automatically does it, because you're going to set it up for automatic, then it's going to only add in the changes which have happened. So if you only added a couple videos, a couple files, changed a couple things around, it's not going to do the entire backup. It's going to keep that, but then it's going to add just that little bit at the end. So instead of doing a full backup, a full backup, a full backup, it's just going to add a little bit at the end. And I like to do that. But you have to keep all those incremental versions in order to do your backup, because it needs to look for all of them to restore it. Okay, have I said enough during this video yet? So we'll keep it on incremental for right now. Notifications, don't worry about that. That's if you want to set up an email or something to let you know, which I do. I have it set up to let me know that it completed the backup successfully through email. Exclusions, you can exclude certain files that you don't want backing up. So these are the pretty standard files that's usually not necessary to back up. That's just what they put in. You can obviously take those all out and back up everything, or you can add more to your liking. Advanced tab. So I usually only focus on the schedule, the backup scheme, and the advanced tab. So as we go down by this, you can do sector by sector, which means it's going to copy sector by sector, but I only want it to copy the data that's on it. I don't want it to copy a 2 terabyte hard drive, the full 2 terabyte hard drive, when I only have maybe a couple of 100 gigabytes on it. So if I only have this much data, that's what I want it to copy, is only the data, not the entire drive. So we leave that unchecked. We go to backup protection. You can set up a password if you like. I usually don't, but you can do that if you wish. So pre and post commands, I really don't use this, so I don't really have a full in-depth knowledge of what this actually does, but pre and post commands, mention you can do something with it. I don't really know what it is. So we go to backup splitting. So like if you had, see it says like DVDs and Blu-rays, because those are usually smaller in size. So take like a Blu-ray, I think is like 50 or 60 gigabytes. But if you had like 100 gigabytes worth of data, you'd have to split it up between 2 different Blu-rays, or, you know, you get the idea. So you'd have to split it between 2 different things if you were going that direction. I don't ever use that because I don't work with CDs anymore. So validation is important to me. It should be important to you. What I like to do is do the backup of the latest version only. So I'm mixed in between what I like to do. So data validation is basically, it's going to back it up, however much data you have. It's going to back it up. Then it's going to go back to the beginning and take a step back and look at it again and say, yep, I did it correctly. You're good to go. That's what kind of it's for. So you could do the latest backup version only. So if we're doing incremental, right? You're doing your first one, then you're doing the little bit at the end the next week. So you could either validate just that little bit because it already validated the big one, or you could go back to the very beginning and validate everything all over again. But every time you add in more, the validation is going to get longer and longer. Your backups may be quick, but your validation could get longer and longer. And you can do it upon, you can validate on a task or a schedule, kind of like a once a month type thing. So mainly that's for if you have them either constantly plugged into your computer, like an external hard drive, or your internal drive. So you can actually opt to do that once a month. Let it go through and check that. When you're not using your computer, I mean, I keep my computer on all the time. That's just what I do. So it validates and it backs up on a schedule. As we move on, we got removable media settings. I, generally speaking, don't touch any of these, so you can look them up and see what they're for if you want. Error handling. So I ignore bad sectors, and that's pretty much all I change in there. And we got the number of attempts. I leave it all standard. I don't touch anything again. It's just going to attempt 5 times till it says it couldn't do it. And shut the computer down. So you can opt to, so the automatic one that's set is it's going to stop current operations when you shut down the computer, or you could shut down the computer after the backup's complete. So if you were to go on vacation, you're just going out for the day, or you are the type of person that, you know, maybe has the laptop or something and you want to do a backup, but you want the computer off, but the backup's going to take too long. So you can set it. Boom, walk away. It's going to shut down the computer for you after it's done backing up and validating. And for our last one, we have performance. I always set I usually, not always, but I usually set it to max compression. So it's going to compress it, which takes a little bit longer. It also takes longer to restore it, but it makes the entire backup smaller than your original. So your C drive may show 100 gigabytes, but your backup may only show 80 or 90 or 95 or something like that, depending on what files can be compressed. So compression level is set to max. Priority, I usually go low to normal because a lot of times I'm using the computer while it's doing its stuff, but again, I also try to set my backups so they're in the middle of the night, so when I'm not actually using the computer. So you can go low or normal or even high. Sometimes I have set them to high before because if I'm not using the computer, why not? And everything else I leave right as is. And you can go okay. Now your next step is just literally hitting that backup button. Oh, there's only 100 gigabytes selected. That's right. So what we're going to do is we're going to do this. This should go pretty quick because we're going from an NVMe to another NVMe and they're Gen 4. So this should happen pretty quick. And I'll try to leave it as, I'll probably speed it up, but I want to leave this go so you can actually see what's happening. So we're going to click backup right now. Now it's just preparing the data. It's looking for what you wanted. It's looking for, where it's going, and it's calculating the data size, and we should see this thing take off momentarily. And don't forget, it is compressing it. So the number that you see down here, when it gets up to close to that 100 that we said we're going to get, it may be smaller. So it's all depending on your files. And you can see the estimated time remaining is 3 minutes. Usually these aren't the best at estimating what kind of time it takes because it'll slow up, then it'll speed up, and it's hit and miss. So don't pay attention to how many minutes are left because I've seen it start off at like 5, 10, 15 minutes, and then all of a sudden it started climbing. So just don't pay attention to that. Yeah, I think the backup took about 3-4 minutes, and the validation only took about 30 seconds. So our backup is done, guys. So look at that. So the backup is valid is what it says. So now let's just open up the D drive. And well, let's do something before we do that. I want to go to this PC. We can see we had 365 gigabytes of data. No, I'm sorry. I thought that's not free space. So let's go down to properties and free space. Okay, so space used is about 100 gigabytes right there. And now we go over to the D drive where we put it. And look at this, C drive. That's our backup right there. Now you can't just double click on it and it's going to restore anything. That's not how it works. You need to use Acronis to actually restore this. But let's look at the file size, less than 30 gigabytes. That compressed 100 gigabytes all the way down to 30. So that's a space savings. Let me say that again. It's a space savings tip right there to do max compression. Now, max compression only works, like I said, it doesn't work too well on video files or sometimes pictures, but on documents and files like that, it actually can take all the words and the spacing between the words and really compress them down to where you can save a lot of space. So just, for knowledge. All right, so I have an external hard drive right here, and you may have seen this in a previous video. I did a review on this, and it was also in the video for what drive to select for external hard drives. So this is an SSD by SanDisk. It's a G40, and this is Thunderbolt or Type-C. This will go at 20 gigabits per second or 10 gigabits per second, depending on what port you put it in, but it has a Type-C. We're going to put it in a Thunderbolt. I'm going to demonstrate that we can back up right to one of those. That's what we're doing right now. Okay, so if we come back over here to Acronis, and okay, it's like, all right, well, I did my first backup. How do I do another one that's separate from that one? Well, you can see right down here where it says add backup. We're going to click on that once. And it populates at the top, so your newest one is going to be at the top. We're going to label this. Let's back up our D drive this time. So let's go D drive. Oops. D drive. And let's do like let's just do D drive for right now. D drive 2824. Hit enter. And now let's go through the same process. I'm going to go a little quicker here, but you can see change source. So we want to go to disk and partitions because we don't want the entire, we could go to files and folders if you just want to back up certain things. Don't forget that. If you just want certain things on that drive, but you don't necessarily want the entire drive. So let's just demonstrate that. Let's go over to, we want, let's go to D. So we won't want the entire D. So we clicked on that, and you can see over here on the right-hand side, we can see we have our folders. So right here is our backup. But I don't want the backup because I don't want another backup on this. I just want to back up whatever's on it on the D drive. Now this is just an option. You can back up the entire thing if you want, or you didn't even have to put that backup on the D drive. Don't forget that. So we just want to back up the folders. That's all we want. 161 gigabytes. So now where are we going to put it? That's the question. We want to put it on the external hard drive. External drive. That's what we want. And I don't know why it's not recognizing that. Let's just unplug it, try to plug it in again. I don't know if it's going to recognize that. It's not. So let me shut this down, and we are going to reopen this. It shouldn't have done that, but let's just see if that was the problem. Either that or I'm plugged into Thunderbolt. I don't know if there's a problem with communication between Thunderbolt and Acronis. If it is, I'll switch it over to a different port. Not a problem. Okay, let's go to Add Backup. We're just going to call this D drive, and I'm not even going to bother putting a date in there. Let's go to change the source. I think we had the, so we have that C drive. Oh, I wanted to do the folders. That's right. So we want folders, and not that one. We need to drop this down. We need to click on this. We want this, video capture, and this one. So we want those. Go to back. And our destination, external. Okay, so it's not recognizing Thunderbolt. So let's try the next one down, which is a little slower, but that's okay. Okay, so it recognized that, and that's something that I didn't even know. So it doesn't recognize Thunderbolt, which is kind of interesting. So maybe it's just dedicated to Mac, if you had a Mac download for this portion of this. So we're going to click on our F drive. That's just what it's labeled. We don't have to change the destination at all. We can go right to the options. We can let's just do not schedule because it's an external hard drive. Go backup scheme. We want it incremental, or maybe you don't want this. You want a full version or single version scheme. We could do that. Okay, this we want to go over to advanced. We don't need that. We don't need that. Validation. We want to validate regularly. Just going to validate that. Backup. And so error handling is going to be pretty much the same. We're just going to repeat it. And file level security settings, if you don't want anybody getting into them, you can set those. And we got performance. We're going to go with max. High priority this time. Well, no, let's go with normal priority, because I am running another software program behind this to capture all this. So we're going to go to OK. Let's just do our backup, and this is how this one's done, just if you're going to do folders. So the process of this is a little bit different. It's kind of stuck on this 7.23 gigabytes, and with 1 minute remaining, it hasn't really moved in about 15 to 20 seconds. So not to be concerned about it yet. I've occasionally, very occasionally have had any kind of issues with Acronis True Image, but it's usually depending on what kind of drive you're using, the speed of it, and whether you're going through USB, and etc., etc. But key is just be a little patient, let it do its thing. It hasn't errored or anything, so let's just see what happens. All right, so that took like another 2 or 3 minutes for it to jump from 7.23 all the way up to the 44.8. So there's some sort of a communication between how much it's putting on the external drive and what it's putting on here. So we did have quite a bit. If we come to, I forget how much data is actually on the D drive. Let's just see here. Let's go to properties. And we can see we had use space of 307. Now take that 307 minus that 29 or 30 gigabytes that's we're not doing, then it'll be about 275-ish, 277. Yeah. So this is going to be putting on more than twice the amount as the other one we just showed you. So that's why I said just leave it. It could be doing something. It just wasn't, it's just not communicating for some reason between the external drive and the transfer. That's all. All right, so now it's actually validating. And one thing I did want to point out, so the progress bar never went the entire way. Now I did stop recording briefly and then I noticed it started validating without the progress bar going all the way for the actual backup. Now that's normal. I've seen that before. I kind of just forgot about it. But what I want to do is go over to the D drive again, and we can see how big that backup actually, or not the D drive. We want to go to the drive that we're putting the backup on, right? And we can see right over here the file size. It says 167. That's 167 gigabytes. Now, I'll come down here. We can show properties, and we can go to, yeah, the size of it says 160. It's just a discrepancy of the actual real size. But anyway, 160, 167 gigabytes, not a big difference. This is a 4 terabyte drive external drive that I'm using. So, excuse me, my phone is going off and I forgot about that. So anyway, remember when I said we had about 307 minus the 30 gigabytes? So that put us at 275, 280 gigabytes that it actually was backing up. Well, that compression, remember we set it to max. It compressed that 275 gigabytes all the way down to 160, 167. So that's what the max compression will do for you. But this is going to continue validating, and when it's done, basically up top here where it has a blue arrow, it's going to turn to a green check mark just like the other one. And it's that easy, it's that simple, and then you'll have all your backups. So I highly recommend doing this. Get it done. All right, guys, so that's going to do it for me. Leave your comments down below if you wish. I will do my best in answering any Acronis questions for you or any other tech questions. But that's going to do it for me. Hit that thumbs up for me, please, to show your support. And consider subscribing if you have not. That way you can get notified for any future videos that I do post. But you have to hit that bell icon. I just remembered that. Hit that bell icon. That way you can get notified for any future videos. But also subscribe, right? And you have to subscribe to even hit that bell icon. So I'm just talking in circles. So I think we're going to end it right here before I say something that I'm going to regret. So until next time, take care.